Hello, and welcome to the Auteur Theory. 3 directors have been mentioned on this blog as worthy auteurs: Stanley Kubrick, Steven Spielberg, and Martin Scorsese. There's no denying that Quentin Tarantino is just as deserving of a spot on that list. Tarantino has changed the movie-going experience for audiences around the world. With movies like Pulp Fiction, Django Unchained, Kill Bill, and Inglourious Basterds, he has become a fan favorite, a mother's worst nightmare, and an inspiration for up-and-coming directors like he once was. Because, let's be honest, great directors aren't simply born out of thin air. But when it comes to Tarantino, it feels like he's done much more than simply create great films. He has carved out a spot for himself in the history of classic film. The way that he brilliantly directs the opening to Inglourious Basterds is nothing short of showcasing his genius. Mark Devendorf, director, writer, and movie producer, explains exactly this.
And it's just like a finely crafted short film. And it has this great tension. And a lot of people say he just repeated the scene through the rest of the movie. And it feels like he's kind of contributed something to classical cinema, more along the lines that I think influenced him, like Sergio Leone. And the other thing, and this isn't a specific scene, but watching his films by yourself is one experience. Watching them in an audience, you realize they're comedies and people are laughing the whole way through, especially with a big crowd. Watching them by yourself, they seem more serious, but he's making like very violent comedies. Like my mom is a big fan of violence, and she just thought the West Django Unchained was just hilarious, and she thought it was funny the whole time. And I think that's just a great ability to have this. They seem like they're dramas because they're so well structured and so well acted, but really they're comedies.
And while Devendorf's mother finds Tarantino's violence to be laughable, my mother, Kathy Davidson, finds Tarantino's works far from comedic. Take Kill Bill, for example. While watching the fight between Uma Thurman's character and the Crazy 88, she was not entertained.
If this had been the first Tarantino movie I'd seen, I would never see another one, and I would have probably walked out of the theater watching this one. It was too bloody. It was too ridiculous. It was almost like, what is she, like she's Superwoman. I mean, maybe it's supposed to be a superhero movie. I don't know. But just way too much blood, and then it went over the top. It got ridiculous.
And while Tarantino does get ridiculous, there's also a seriousness that goes hand in hand with this. He wants his movies to shock and awe, but also wants them to hold merit. Jonathan Bumgarner, a biology student at Santa Barbara City College, notes this trend.
He wants all of his things to be gritty and realistic, but he likes to go over the top and have fun with it, and I think that that's a great medium to balance. Like, Inglourious Basterds is the perfect example. He has all these characters that are, there to kill all the Nazis and all this hyper-violence, but at the same time, it's set in World War III, in a very serious part in history. And then, the way that he depicts Hitler's assassination is just, like, amazing. Like, just bullets, like...
Bullets indeed. Tarantino meshes ultra-violence with comedy and drama. And this not only makes his movies somewhat unique, but the way that this meshing is done helps to showcase his abilities as a true artist, a true auteur.
Yeah, I think the comedy kind of makes some of the gorier stuff go down easier. I mean, some of the ways that people were killed in Django Unchained with like the shotgun and the blood, I mean, they're pretty funny. So on the other hand, sometimes he'll get so violent that you just kind of step away. I think the shot in Inglourious Basterds where they're just shooting Hitler's head over and over, he wants that image to stick with you, but it kind of just pulls you out of some other things. So it's a balance, and I still think in some ways he's finding the balance. And that's great, because that means he's an artist who's striving, and that's why it's still good.
But Tarantino's artistic brilliance hasn't always shown through. No one has even seen his first film because of how terrible it was. But his second film, Reservoir Dogs, put him on the map of directors to keep an eye on. And from there on out, well, I guess that part's history. It's that film that created the Tarantino that fans have come to love and adore.
He also did this interesting thing that quite a few directors did, and that his first film, I think it's called Best Friend's Birthday or something like that, no one's ever seen. And this is how you learn to do directing. And there's a lot of people that put pressure on themselves to turn out an amazing first film. His first film was so terrible that no one ever saw it. But he learned how to direct through it. And that's how you learn how to direct, is you do it.
Even though Tarantino's first film was never even seen, his next films established him as such a great director, it's almost like no one even noticed. He has an impeccable body of work that has been viewed over and over and over again. And it's an impressive body of work, an immaculate style, and a unique point of view that helps an individual transcend from the title of director to that of the true auteur.
I think one thing is to have a body of work where it's consistent. I think in some ways you could have one film and not necessarily have one great film and not necessarily be a great director. I think directors have the ability to marshal all these complex components of story and actors and sets and able to turn it into a story and do it more than once. There's so many factors in film that you could just have a fair amount of chaos, and with the right producer and the right editor and the right screenwriter and the right cast, you could probably get away, but I think a good director has a body of work that they're proud of.
Tarantino has an amazing team that helps him pull together these great films, and that, mixed with the brilliance of his writing through both a pen and through a lens, makes him one of the greatest directors of all time. While he may not be the greatest director of all time, he is absolutely an auteur. But not only is he a great auteur, he is the greatest American auteur. Be sure to check out the rest of my blog and see why I've thought the other 3 directors that I've mentioned are some of the greatest American auteurs. This is the Auteur Theory. I'm Alexander Davidson, and thank you so much for watching.